And why are you here? Shen Jiu asked. Luo Binghe shrugged. Not sure, he replied. Then he leveled an unsettling smile. It was a smile like Shen Jiu was a dog he was raising, and one day he'd suddenly discovered that this dog could say a couple of human words. How incredibly fun! His gaze made Shen Jiu's hair stand on end from terror. You're not afraid of me anymore, Luo Binghe said. I'm not afraid of the one out there. I'm afraid of the one in here. Luo Binghe raised a hand and beckoned him. Come here. If the original flavor Luo Binghe, and the post-darkening version at that, beckoned you in this way, you'd better obediently go even while shaking in terror. Yet Shen Jiu still had the courage to attempt a last-ditch struggle in the face of death. However, the moment he turned around, that black silhouette flashed in front of him, blocking his path. A couple of more inches and Shen Jiu would slam into him. Shen Jiu abruptly retreated several steps and narrowly missed falling backward. Luo Binghe grabbed his sleeve with 2 fingers and pulled him back. Why did you run? He asked gently. With that face right in front of him, the current Shen Jiu still neither bring himself to hit nor genuinely fear its owner. Still unwilling to give up, he kept pinging the system. System, is this really the original Luo Binghe? Not my world's Luo Binghe? What should I do to clear the punishment? It can't seriously be to fight him and win. What's the difference between this and sending me back to my original world? System. Greetings. While the punishment is in progress. Shen Jiu X'd out of the window. Luo Binghe stared at his face for a while, then furrowed his brow. Somehow I keep getting the feeling that something about you is different. Are you really Shen Jiu? Shen Jiu blinked but remained cautious. Luo Binghe surveyed his face, a hint of bewilderment in his actions. Then he slowly took hold of Shen Jiu's right hand. This palm felt the same as always, both dry and cool. Shen Jiu's heart stirred just a little, and he was about to say something when suddenly his right shoulder went cold. At that moment, Shen Jiu didn't feel the sensation of his right arm leaving his shoulder. He only saw something being flung into the air, and half his body seemed lighter. Even then, he didn't fully understand, not until an earth-shattering pain lanced through his entire body and brain. Luo Binghe had tore his right arm straight off. Having suffered a traumatic injury, Shen Jiu's body automatically retaliated with a burst of spiritual energy. But a single palm strike from Luo Binghe dispersed it into nothingness. Crimson blood gushed out from his wound, impossible to stem. Shen Jiu's head spun and vision swayed. He might have heard someone screaming, or he might not. His ears were ringing, so he couldn't tell. His only thought was that he had to get away from the person before him right now. He staggered backward, but after only a couple of steps, he tripped over a stray stalk of charred bamboo and fell straight onto his back. The pain from the stump where his arm had been was too great. Even the sensation of his head smashing into the ground was lost on him. Luo Binghe leisurely came up to him again. This time, he stroked Shen Jiu's calf in a gentle caress. Human stick! Luo Binghe was planning to turn him into a human stick! Shen Jiu was in so much agony, he could barely breathe. He grabbed Luo Binghe with his remaining hand and shook his head, disoriented. Gasping and struggling for air, he said, Don't do this. Not with that face, he thought. Luo Binghe firmly pressed Shen Jiu to the ground with a single hand. His gaze could almost have been described as affectionate. This isn't the first time we've done this, so why is Shizun still so unaccustomed? He said softly. Then how about we do it a couple of more times and get you used to it slowly? In that instant, a horrific, gut-wrenching pain emanated from the root of Shen Jiu's left thigh and rapidly tore through his entire body. He couldn't take it anymore. He began to scream. Suddenly, the system's monotone voice spoke a notification. Punishment complete. The pain abruptly vanished, and Shen Jiu violently sprung up before straightaway falling to his knees again. He wasn't in the mood to roast anything or slap the system. Instead, he remained half kneeling, watching his cold sweat splatter to the ground, drop by drop, his vision still swimming with stars. From beside him, there suddenly came a voice. What's wrong? Only then did Shen Jiu realize he wasn't alone. It seemed that he hadn't returned to the real world. This was yet another dream realm. Moreover, this cavern looked a little familiar. It was a cavern where Menmo had lurked as a black fog, back when Shen Jiu had his first experience entering dreams. The person next to him was indeed Menmo, the dream demon. With difficulty, Shen Jiu managed to compose himself, then asked his question. How did I end up here with you? You entered an incredibly powerful dream realm, and your spirit was at risk of being torn apart, so I've been trying to interfere for a while. This elder tried many times but failed. I only succeeded just now, then incidentally brought you back to this barrier over here. Based on Shen Jiu's past impressions, Menmo hadn't seemed particularly fond of him. That he'd go so far as to recognize a bad situation and even, quote, incidentally pull him out of it came as something of a surprise. Many thanks to Senior, he said heartfelt. You truly helped me a great deal. Menmo humphed. No need to thank me. This elder was only surprised that last time in the Holy Mausoleum, you really did manage to persist until that brat woke up. So you've helped him quite a bit too, and helping him also helps me. The incredible agony of having his arm torn clean off was still branded in Shen Jiu's consciousness, and any moment that face surfaced within his mind, it triggered the memory. Shen Jiu couldn't help but hold his right shoulder with his left hand. Only after gulping down several breaths did he manage to say that name without his voice trembling. How come I haven't seen Luo Binghe? Logically, the one who most loved pulling him into dreams, the one who was most enthusiastic about it, was Luo Binghe. Usually, whenever Shen Jiu fell asleep, Luo Binghe came and harassed him, but this time Menmo had actually gotten there first and pulled Shen Jiu into his barrier. The mere thought of Luo Binghe depressed Menmo. How should this elder know? From the moment that brat mastered my wondrous techniques, I was never able to enter his dreams realm again. Of all those under heaven, his thoughts and dreams are the only ones this elder is utterly helpless against. Shen Jiu needed to see that sweet and obedient Luo Binghe right away, or his limbs would keep aching every time that name came to mind. Can that pure-hearted little white flower of a boy please show up right now and soothe me? Menmo shot Shen Jiu a glance out of the corner of his eye. Seeing that his face was green and his lips were pale, he stiffly asked. That brat will come and find you himself, so what's the rush? Didn't you avoid him like the plague before? Shen Jiu looked at Menmo pretending disdain and thought, does this count as an attempt to comfort me? Having relaxed a little while sitting on the ground, Some time passed before Shen Jiu suddenly recalled something. Senior Memo, back at the Holy Mausoleum, I took Luo Binghe eastward with me. On the way, we encountered 2 people, and one of them was a woman. Did you? At that time, Qiu Haitang had fallen unconscious for a moment. Upon waking, she'd gone crazy for no reason, then fled in dismay. Shen Jiu strongly suspected that during the time she was out, she'd seen something in her dream realm. Since Luo Binghe had also been unconscious at that point, with his forehead burning like red-hot coal, he couldn't have invaded Qiu Haitang's dreams. In that case, Memo was the most likely meddler. As expected, Memo twirled his whiskers.
This elder indeed used a tiny trick.
Though he acted indifferent, calling it, quote, tiny trick, his voice held an inconcealable note of pride. Shen Jiu couldn't help but ask, what exactly did you show her? Normally, if Memo wanted to psychologically crush a person, he showed them their darkest, most painful memories. Could he have dragged out her memories out of the Qiu massacre? No, that couldn't be. If that had been the case, Qiu Haitang's reaction upon waking up and seeing Shen Jiu wouldn't have been what it was. She would have been overflowing with hatred and made to stab him, to pierce his body with 100 holes. So, why instead had she cried and screamed before turning around and fleeing?
The memories I showed her,
Memo said,
were not hers, but yours.
Shen Jiu instantly understood. The memories of Shen Jiu, which still remained in his body. They had been on his mind ever since Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky mentioned that Shen Jiu's original backstory was never transferred into the novel proper. He asked immediately, may I request that Senior show them to me? Memo sent him a glance, but he didn't ask why Shen Jiu needed someone else to show him his own memories.
You don't remember?
Shen Jiu had been preparing to bullshit something evasive about how a qi deviation had damaged his memory, but now he nodded. Correct. It had to be said, memory loss from qi deviation was fairly improbable. Memo surprisingly didn't interrogate him further.
Some things are better forgotten.
I earnestly request Senior's assistance, Shen Jiu said.
You truly wish to see?
Shen Jiu nodded several times. Memo reached out and pressed a finger to his forehead.
Close your eyes. Wait until I let go before opening them again.
Shen Jiu shut his eyes accordingly.
Your memories are fragmented and incomplete, and you might see people whose features appear blurry or indistinct. Such issues arise from your own self.
Memo meant that if there were bugs, the problem lay in Shen Jiu's personal data files and not his own technique. Shen Jiu silently counted to 10 and waited until the pressure on his forehead was gone. When he opened his eyes after, a frail-looking youth was kneeling before him on the ground, his hair loose and arms bound behind him with hemp rope. The youth's face was fair with a pointed chin, his eyes and brows clear and delicate, yet there was a persistent sullenness in his countenance, and 2 patches of bruising covered his forehead and corner of his lips. This was the still young Shen Jiu.